بِالْقِسْطِ شُهَدَاءَ. That be people that are stand firmly. قَوَّامِينَ بِالْقِسْطِ شُهَدَاءَ لِلَّهِ. As witnesses on behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Allah mentions three things. He says, وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ. Even if it means that you have to go contrary to your own interests. وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ. Even against yourselves. أَوِ الْوَالِدَيْنِ. Or against your parents. أَوِ الْأَقْرَبِينَ. وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ. Or if it means your parents or your relatives. And then later in the ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا الْهَوَىٰ أَن تَعْدِلُوا. Do not allow your own desires to cause you to deviate. That you should, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care, فَاللَّهُ أَوْلَى بِهِمَا, immediately preceding that. That Allah will take care of them, so don't act out of your own self-interest and follow your desires and your whims, because that will cause you to deviate. That will cause you to swerve away from the path of justice. Now, part of what's implicit in these verses of Surah An-Nisa is that sometimes the right thing to do is not going to be the thing that benefits you. It's not always going to be convenient. It's not always going to be expedient. There will be times in which you'll have to make a choice. And so to illustrate this point, I want to share the example of Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba, the very famous Senegalese Mujaddid of Islam, reviver of Islam. And he's also famous in history because of his struggle against French colonization and his non-violent resistance movement. Now, he was kind of an unlikely hero because he didn't really like the attention and the limelight. But after his father, who was involved in politics and also a scholar of Islam, when he passed away, at the janazah, he made a definitive statement. He said, "It is not my custom to keep company with rulers." So everybody was assuming that he would continue to maintain the relationships that existed within his family and his father, and he said, that's not the way that I do things. "It is not my custom to keep company with rulers. I look for no help from them. Allah alone is the one for whom I look for the granting of honor." Now, of course, the king was, the French general was very displeased. He was very upset about this statement. And then Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba, he insisted on it. And he made the famous statement. He said that an alim, a scholar in the court of the king, is like a fly eating impurity, insisting that he will not be complicit in that which is wrong. Now, as a result of that, he retreated in khalwa, because now he had a choice. Was he going to lead an active resistance? Was he going to be complicit? Was he going to accept the colonial rule? Or would he chart a third path? Would he create a new way for himself? In his diwan, and his diwan, it's mostly in Arabic, he shared these verses which I think are very illustrative. He said, "العلم عند العلماء ينقسم لظاهر وباطن سرا كتم ظاهره المصلح للأعمال والباطن المصلح للأحوال." He said that according to the ulama, according to the scholars, knowledge divides into that which is outward and that which is inward. So there's outward knowledge and there is inner knowledge. Outward knowledge corrects your actions, and inner knowledge corrects your states. Right? مصلح للأحوال. فأول باسم تفقه دعي والثاني عنهم بتصوف وعي. He said the first, we know that as fiqh, right? Tafaqquh. So he said that fiqh, the sharia, that is the outward knowledge that we know of. And the second, we know that as tasawwuf. Or you can use another word, tazkiyah, purification of the soul, whatever word you want to use. But the word he uses here is tasawwuf. ثم تقديم الفتى الفقه على تصوف وجوبه قد انجلى. He said that the student, right, so the person that's studying has to always put sharia, has to put fiqh as first and foremost. This is an obvious obligation that they have to put the outward over the inward, right? Because you have to correct your outward state before you can correct your inner state. فمن إلى إخلال الأول انتمى هلك في الدنيا بحكم العلماء. He said that whoever is guilty of neglecting the fiqh, if you neglect the Quran and the Sunnah, then you will be destroyed in this dunya, according to the scholars, right? If you don't observe the outward actions of Islam, then you're going to be destroyed in this world. فَمَنْ يَكُنْ بِالثَّانِي ذا إخلال يهلك غدا بحكم ذي الجلال. And as for the one who does not observe and neglects the inner knowledge, the knowledge of the heart, the knowledge of the soul, then that second person is going to be destroyed in the second, meaning the second life, meaning in al-hayat al-akhirah. That means that person will be destroyed in the akhirah. That is the decree of the Almighty. Now, if we want to sum up what Shaykh Ahmad Ubamba is mentioning here into modern terms that are more accessible, then we would say that the outward knowledge is what ensures that you do the right thing. And the inner knowledge is what ensures that you do the right thing for the right reasons. Because it's not enough, right? As Imam Malik said, وَمَنْ جَمَعَ بَيْنَ الْإِثْنَيْنِ تَحَقَّقَ. That the person that joins between the inner and the outward, that person reaches their destination. In America, we have a saying, I don't know if you guys have heard it. They said the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Because you have a lot of people that say, no, I'm doing it fi sabilillah, fi sabilillah. I'm doing it for the sake of Allah, but they might take you straight to the hellfire. Because whatever they're showing you, it could be an innovation, right? So there's so many people, they're sincere, but they say, oh, I have this brand new way that you can worship Allah. It's great. Just try it. Like something, even the Prophet, he didn't know about it, right? Like news alert. So it's like, okay, the person has a good intention, but that doesn't make it okay according to the Sharia. And then you have others, they will observe all of the outward manifestations. They will come with the look of the people of Jannah. But because the heart is detached, because the intention is to impress others, then it will be rejected. Now, because of Shaykh Ahmad Ubamba's adherence to these principles, because of his famous non-violence resistance, he was exiled to 2 different countries. He was sent to the savannah, and then finally he was under house arrest. If you add all of these years together, he was away from his students and the city that he had founded for 27 years. And he departed this world without any of the accolades and the worldly possessions that people aspire to have. But in the end, that is what made his da'wah successful. That is what gave people confidence. That's what gave him credibility. And as a result of that, Shaykh Ahmad Ubamba is one of the greatest mujaddideen, the greatest revivers. As you know, the Prophet ﷺ, he said that inna Allah yab'athu, that Allah sends in roughly every 100 years, man yujaddidu deena, the person that will revive the religion. And it's very special and very unique. And the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is in dire need at this time to find scholars who will chart this middle way. Right? Because it's very easy. People in politics, they want you to go one way or the other way. They want you to be for something, they want you to be against anything. And he had a choice. He could have gone with a violent resistance against the French. He could have created an army. But he said, because of the overwhelming power of the French, he said that I refuse to engage in jihad of the sword. And he says, Shaykh Ahmad Ubam, not because he's saying that it should not be done as a matter of principle, but because he said we lack the means to do so. That would be suicide. So he said, instead we will do jihad of the pen. And this is a great example for the ummah that in the difficult times that we're facing right now, that being silent, being complacent can never be a good choice. And that at the very minimum, we should not compromise our principles and stay steadfast on the truth. وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ, even if you have to go against your own interest, أَوِ الْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ, or against your parents or against your relatives. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to purify our tongues and to keep us steadfast on the truth. Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'ah wa arina al-batilan warzuqna ijtinaba. Also, we make dua for Sister Mashmoom's aunt, Saad, that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant her shifa and ajila, grant her speedy recovery and restore her to her health. Wa sallallahu wa sallim ala nabiyyina wa habibina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.